Well, hello, everybody. How are you doing? It is Monday, and yes, I do believe we are in the twilight zone. I think there was a shift, and it was a hard one, and man, this is where we ended up. Like, what has happened? Well, so good to see you all. Favor, and let's just take a deep breath. Exhale that, and as long as you're 6 feet away from me. It's gotten that crazy. Hey, I want to say thank you to Chris over at Forbidden Knowledge. Is on his show last night. I had a good conversation. Yeah, y'all to go over there and watch it. Chris is a good guy, and we had a good time discussing the current reality we're in. We're all crazy. We're all just mad hatters here. That's all. So if we can get that, we can have fun. Yeah, you can have fun in the middle of a crisis. Who says that you can't have fun in the middle of a crisis? I mean, seriously, where is it written? Thou shalt be a pain in the ass. No. Welcome everyone in the chat room and all the moderators. Hello, Susie Q and David Barry, and there's Nina the Mystic and Infant Frequency 6111. How are you doing? Spirit Girl from San Francisco. So good to have you. Honored. Think agape love, always and forever. Absolutely. David Castle and Monkey Butt. How you doing? Kent Cook, good to see you, buddy. Eye of the Maelstrom. Aren't we in that now? Wow. So welcome everyone. There's Bernadette. Good to see you, my dear. Julianne Payne from Down Under, and Michael, and man, it's spinning by. It's like, hey, I need some Dramamine, wow. Tomorrow we'll be talking with Miss Trina on a second look. Folks, I think we just got to adjust to some things. I mean, it's lunacy. With the internet, and I don't know how this would have been able to have been pulled off 20 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago. I don't know if it's real, if it's unreal. I don't know. My wife is on the front line, so that brings a certain focus in for my family. We it is real. And when you have your wife, your husband, if those of you in law enforcement, we have a lot of nurses that listen to this channel and part of this community. Every one of them, medical students, they're all on the front lines now. Who would have ever thought that your occupation would have been a hazard? So, in that aspect, it's real for us, but we refuse to give in to the panic. Use the wording of one who was very wise. Be as gentle as a dove, but as wise as a fox. Be like the Cheshire cat, Yeah, we dig what's going on, but we ain't gonna let it get into our head. And it's hard to do. I mean, y'all saw the video I did on Saturday. That was weird. Seriously weird. And it just keeps getting weirder, I have to say. Got my tea. So the world is good. How are y'all doing? It's so good to see you. Hello, Brian. Good to see you, my friend. It's getting crazier. We're going to have to face some realities, and this is why we're doing these readings. Some people get kind of upset about this, and again, Brad Spalding used terms and words that were his. And whether, it seems to be pushing a particular direction of a religion, a thought, who cares? We're wise here. We read, and we read all kinds of things. We read this that, has a certain very Christendom theme to it, but we also read the Liber Lilith. And that was a different flavor, indeed. And didn't we learn a lot? I mean, I still say that that's one of the top 5 books um, in my current residency on this planet that I've had the privilege to have the insight on. So yeah. So calling those things that be not as though they are. I learned that fundamental principle before I actually became a Christian. In very early in my life, Earl Nightingale was a huge influence on me. Earl Nightingale brought to me Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And then from there, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, and the list will go on. And I learned at that crucial point in my life a fundamental principle. You literally create what you frame in your mind. And some of us have rooms. We're not even aware of it. We're creating, but we're not aware that we're in a room that has a lot of residual energy. Could be from a trauma of your past, could be something that impacted you, in a way that, it stung at the time and you just kind of tampered it down and, yeah. So learning these principles allowed me to advance in the corporate world. And then as an entrepreneur, the same thing. So this is Monday, and boy, I can't think of a better time to read our affirmations. This is the day, folks. Woo! All right. Get your libation wherever you are. Cheers. It's 2:00 somewhere. And let's go with this. All these favors will come upon me and overtake me if I give voice to them each day. Favor will be with me in the city. Favor will be with me in the country. Boy, don't you need that now? This is the payoff, folks. We've been doing this, basically about 8-9 months. I lacked a little bit there during the winter, but it pays off because these words are now becoming very familiar to you. When you hear them, you immediately connect to them. And many of you have written and said that it's working. Yeah, it's working. Favor will heal my body when I speak favor into my body. Favor will set apart my children, my animals, my ground as favored with abundance of joy. Favor will be on my food, my water, my pantry, my life force. Favor will walk with me when I come in and when I go out. Favor will cause my enemies to be at peace with me. Favor will be upon my barns and storehouses where I keep my valuables to prosper and be in safety. Prospering today is going to become very important. Favor will be upon me in everything I undertake. Everything I set my hand to, favor shall cause it to prosper. Favor shall be upon all my material property and shall cause it to last longer and not break. Favor shall protect me, my offspring, and my possessions from calamity. Wow, there we go. Favor will lead me to good fortune in all things. The rest of the world can be in absolute turmoil, and we're going to have our oasis here. Because why? We confess this thing. And confessing brings possessing. It's true. Favor will cause me to be the head and not the tail. Favor will cause me to come out on top and not beneath. Favor will cause me to always be above and not below. Favor will cause me to have favor with the elements. Favor will cause me to be favored with the spirit realm. Favor will cause me to be favorable to everyone I meet. They will see me with favor. Favor will seek me out. It will overtake me and abide with me. No weapon of any kind shall harm me, or will it prosper. And we say, it will be created in my words, and what was said has been done. Boom, baby. Boom, shakalaka. That's all I got to say. Uh-huh. It works. And we need these calming words. I mean, listen, this is life 2020. I don't know about you, but has this been a wild freaking year so far? I mean, it started out with bam, but it's the kind of bam that has a delayed effect. And so we went through this time of, I call it the brew. It was all brewing. And here we are now entering the spring, and it looks like things are just unraveling. The markets are definitely unraveling, and that's my biggest concern. I'll just tell you right now, folks, that is my biggest concern. And let us all hope. If you pray, that's fine. Whatever you do to connect to the higher source, we did this to ourselves. This is not any judgment of any deity, of unseen, invisible, whatever. This is not wrath. I don't yeah, I do. I was there one time. And the thing about it is you begin to want this. It's like, yeah, we showed you. You didn't show anything. This is man's stupidity. This was not created by any unseen being. We did it to ourselves. And that's just the way it is, darling. And no God or any deity is going to intervene. It's man's own free will that did this. And the other part of this reality, part of the biosphere of this planet, living in these dense bodies, is that nature itself will produce these viruses within itself. The same thing with bacteria. Why? Because this is a living planet. And I know this sounds, like, oh my God, did he say that? Nature doesn't see man as its highest creation. It sees man as part of the creation process. And today we just happen to have the technology that we can kill the whole planet. And I don't know if that's their thing. I mean, folks, keep it in perspective. The influenza season will go down in the record as a moderate season. And we got to keep that in perspective. But there is more things to come. Just be prepared. I hope by now most of you are prepared. And don't freak out. I mean, no need to go out there and spend $1,000 at the grocery store. Well, today I don't think there would be much in there, but yeah, it's just, we caused this. Think about it. Everything that we see today and all the just the craziness that's being reported, we did this to ourselves. This is us. People are reacting in such a way that, it's not rational, and it's, in this day and age, it's people are having a difficult time adjusting, and we're going to have to adjust. That's just the reality. We're going to have to adjust, and being at home ain't so bad. You can call it a homecation. Now if you've got youngins, yeah, that's going to be an adjustment, but apparently they're making sure that most parents that I know of that are going to be working at home, and we got to begin to counter this. Folks, I'm telling you, there is a tsunami coming of unemployment. United announced today that they're cutting half of their workforce. Saw earlier Como up in New York, cutting all things. And hopefully, we can take care of that. I don't know. It's all I know is this: we can change that. We can change it within ourselves, calling those things that be not as though they are. It's the same thing as now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And in that same venue, it's always interesting when, I was a studier of that particular doctrine, how it said that, I remember this, it's impossible to please God without faith. That's a profound statement. We are God's. Small g, the consciousness that above all this, that's where, we give respect. God is not ego for me anymore. When I was in that mindset, God was an ego, and that's what it's portrayed. I don't see God as ego anymore. No need to be. I love how the book, and we're going to get into it right now, how, in the first part of this, how ML said, why do you worship an angry God? That's a good question. Why? If you worship an angry God, you're going to be angry too. It's the only way you can be. If your God is a vengeful God, then you're going to be vengeful. It's how it works, darling. I didn't make the rules up. They did. Whoever they are, I don't know. I'm like many of you. Someone wrote me and I thought it was just delightful. I've been searching for they for a very long time. Haven't we all? It's like, all right. I still want to know who's behind the curtain. And I don't think it's Monty Hall. I really don't. Aging myself there. But in any case, but think about that. If you're into worship, I'm not. Reverence, respect, yeah. But I look at it like this. Why would the ultimate consciousness want to have worshipers? Because if you follow it, and I believe this, that the all is in us, we're in it, we're all a part of it. So wouldn't that be, basically self-worshiping? I mean, you see how that thing begins to spin? And I look at it today that it's not looking for worshipers. I think it's looking for partners. Like, camaraderie, fellowship. I love fellowship. I mean, the new term social distancing. By the way, here is a trivia question. Who can tell me when the term social distancing first came out? How many of you can come that? Worship creates immense joy. That's why. I don't think so, prayer warrior. Who are you worshiping? I mean, what are you worshiping? Isn't it yourself? I mean, and I'm not trying to get into anyone's theology, but if it brings you joy, far out, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, part of this is that we have to be tolerant, accepting, and understanding of all points of view. You don't want someone to think exactly like you. You'll end up hating them. It's diversity. We become bored. We're creators. And this is what the masters of the Far East are teaching us. We are creators. And someone said social, it's going by quick there. I'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, tolerance, folks. I often wonder, did any of you ever have to, when I was growing up, To Kill a Mockingbird was required reading. I think it's been banned now, but it was a remarkable story. For a young man like myself, it was very impressionable because um, reading for me was an escape. And so as a child, I loved to read. That and A Stranger in a Strange Land. I remember the diversity of it. But it shows, particularly as I look back now, how social attitudes evolve and change. And today we're living in it to where, if you say something, people take it as literal. And it's not where you can study anymore without having someone becoming so critical of everything that is spoken. I'll just tell you right now, I enjoy knowledge of all kinds. And I think that's the first step of wisdom and understanding. Knowledge is knowledge. There's no good knowledge, there's no bad knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. And to use the term from the great wizard himself, Solomon, the thing about knowledge, it's going to cost you. In fact, I think he actually says that. Woe unto the man who acquires great knowledge, for great sorrow shall be his companion. And what did Solomon find out? We found that out a lot, didn't we? So David Castle says, sarcasm is a dying art. Isn't that true? Uh, Don Rickles, I saw him in Las Vegas, and him and Phyllis Diller both. And I don't think most people could handle Don Rickles today. I don't think so. And remember, laugh and smile. That's what we want to do. So let's go ahead and read, because I think that this story is a fascinating one. It's one that allows us to begin to see that there are many mysteries that are right before us that we just do not see. So we left off on Friday in the middle of chapter 7. And we continue. This is Emil speaking. He says, truly, is not this the Christ in man, which the great master Jesus, whom we all love and reverence, came to show? Now, you see, it's very interesting that they use the term reverence and love, not worship. You don't want your children worship you. You want them to grow up, and you want that family unit to bond. It can't be done in where, anyway, I digress. Did he not unfold his life here on earth to show us the perfect way to God? Can we do other than love this perfect ideal way when we once see it? Whether it be planting seed, making bread, or doing the 1,000,001 things necessary to human existence, are not these acts mere lessons carrying us on to our unfoldment? I love that term. I'm still unfolding. There you go. Someday we are to realize that we are truly sons and daughters of God, not servants. That as sons, we can and do have all that the Father has, and that we can use it just as freely as our Father does. And don't get hung up on them. I mean, I got some crappy emails from some people that, folks, if you're going to send me crappy emails, save your time. I want to read it. Listen, Father is metaphorically for the all. All right? Let's just get that out there and stop sending me emails saying, well, how can you become so much, blah, 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 blah. I admit this takes a mighty faith at first. It's like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, ego, that was God. It was a big, deep message right there that God is ego. And, and ego said that when he came, he didn't know when he came into existence, but what he had to learn, and it over millions of years, was to be able how to manipulate matter, layer by layer by layer, until he said he could create a planet. All right. And this takes faith. One that usually must be taken step by step and must be practiced faithfully, like music or mathematics, until we come to the place of knowing. Then we are gradually, beautifully free. Could there be a better, truer example of this life than that of Jesus? And that's metaphorically. Can you not recognize the power that is in his name? Jesus, the Christ made manifest. We know that again, or God manifesting through the flesh of man. Jesus came to the place where he relied wholly upon his deep knowledge or understanding of God, and this is how he did his mighty works. He did not rely upon his own will, power, or upon strong, concentrated thoughts. Neither must we rely upon our own willpower nor strong, concentrated thoughts, but upon the will of God. 'Tis this not my will, but thine, O God, be done. Will do the will of God. Do you not think that Jesus willed in all things to do the will of God and to do what God willed him to do? I think the question I see here, and they will get into a little bit more, is the debate is always, and to me, I'm learning here, but for me, it becomes a Pandora's box for, I think, a man to tell me what the will of God is. How do you know that? It had to have been told by another man. And since I don't know who that man is, I was not there to witness if it was even written by that man. For me, when I look at this, I'm going, okay, fine. So what is the will of God? Who has the audacity to come forth and say that they know the will of the all? I think that's rather arrogant. And you see, so this is how I approach this reading in my own mind. I know Jesus never lived. There was never no one named Jesus, so you can see that why he said this was metaphorically. I think that if they seriously believed that, then I'm reading this and I'm thinking, well, now that's an interesting way of approaching this. Anyway, there we go. This is why we do our study here. And many of you are reading along with this, and send me your thoughts. I mean, when you see someone write and say that in order for you to be able to create out of the nothingness, that which surrounds us, that you have to know what the will of God is. Well, how do you determine what that will is? What do you rely upon for seeing that? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. You will note that very often Jesus is referred to as going into a high mountain. Whether he physically ascended a high mountain or not, I do not know. This I do know, that we must all ascend to the heights, the very highest in consciousness, to receive our illumination. This height means the very top of the head, and there, if the faculty is not developed, we must develop it by spiritual thoughts. Then from the heart, the love center, we must let love flow forth to balance all. And when this is done, the Christ is revealed. The Son of Man perceives that he is the Son of God, the only begotten Son, in whom all the Father is well pleased. Then with constant love, we must realize this for all. So as I interpret that, we're all there. It's one of the fascinating things I think about John 17, is that if you read that, it's very interesting what's being communicated there. I think it's a concept that goes back way before Judaism, way before there was ever a Hebrew, I think that this has been something that is a part of us instinctively. But obviously, what ML is saying here, it's not about an individual. It's about your illumination and understanding who and what you are. Just stop and think deeply for a moment and realize the countless number of the grains of sand of the seashore, the countless number of drops of water that go to make up the waters of the earth, the countless number of life forms in the waters of the earth. Then realize the countless number of rock particles that are contained in the whole earth, the countless number of trees, plants, flowers, the shrubs upon the earth, the countless number of forms of animal life upon the earth. Realize that all are the outpicturing of the ideal held in the great universal mind of God, that they all contain the one life, the life of God. Then think of the countless number of souls born upon the earth. Then realize that each soul is a perfect outpictured ideal image of God as God sees himself, that each soul is given the same power, expression, and dominion over all that God himself has. Do you not think God wills or wishes man to unfold these godlike or God-given qualities and do the work that God does through the inheritance given man by the Father, the Great One, the universal mind in all, through all, and above all? Then realize that each person is an expression or pressing out from the unseen, the spirit, into visible form, a form through which God loves to express. When we realize and accept this, we can truly say, as Jesus did, "Behold, a Christ is here." It is in this way that he attained his mastery over the worldly or flesh self. He recognized, claimed, and accepted his divinity, then lived the life just as we do. Interesting. Still says it's all up here. An attitude of gratitude. That's how I approach it, just being grateful. Grateful for everything. To me, I think that that is the highest form of reverence, respect, adoration. Yes. Chapter 8. After a delay of 8 days, we broke camp on Monday morning and proceeded on our way. The afternoon of the third day out, we came to the banks of a large river. The stream was about 2,000 feet wide, running bank full, and the current was at least 10 miles per hour. We were told that this stream, in ordinary times, could be crossed at this place without any inconvenience. We decided to camp until morning and observe the rise and fall of the water. We were informed that we would be able to cross by bridge further upstream, but to reach this bridge would necessitate a detour of at least 4 days hard travel. That's some backcountry, man. Woo! We felt that if the water was receding, it would be better to wait a few days rather than undertake a long detour. Right there with them on that. It has been demonstrated to us that we need not take any thought as to our provisions, for from the day already referred to, when our provisions were exhausted, the whole company, consisting of over 300 persons, had been supplied with an abundance of provisions from the invisible, as we call it. This supply was maintained for 64 days until we returned to the village from which we started. Thus far, none of us had any idea of the true significance or meaning of the things we were experiencing. Neither were we able to see that these things were performed by definite law, a law that all can use. And just think about that. I mean, I'm not there. first one to raise my hand in the class. But the other thing that's so curious about this is that imagine now that you could literally just manifest by understanding what that will is. And I'm beginning to see that will is for us to create ourselves. Anyway, could you imagine just getting your whole grocery list and there it is? You know why it doesn't work? Because deep down inside, most of us, we say, nah, yeah, that's what they're writing. But I'm a realist, Wayne. I mean, I live in the now, and I'm telling you, I cannot manifest a banana to save my life. And, you're right. You'll never be able to manifest a banana or anything else. Yeah. When we were assembled for breakfast the next morning, we found 5 strangers in camp. They were introduced, and it was mentioned that they were from a party that was camped on the other side of the stream and were returning from the village of our destination. We thought very little of this at the time. We were naturally supposed that they had found a boat and had crossed in it. One of our party said, if these people have a boat, why can we not use it to cross the stream? I think all of us saw this as a way out of our difficulty, but we were told that there was no boat, as the crossing was not thought to be of sufficient importance to maintain one. I love these people, man. I mean, they got that teleportation down. Woo! After finishing breakfast that morning, we were all assembled on the banks of the stream. We noticed that Emil, Jast, and Nepro, with 4 others of our party, were talking with the 5 strangers. Jast came to us and said that they would like to cross with the others to the camp on the other side of the stream, as they had decided to wait until the next morning to see if the water showed signs of receding. Of course, our curiosity was aroused, and we thought it rather foolhardy to attempt to swim a stream as swift as the one before us just to make a friendly call on a neighbor. We felt that swimming was the only way the crossing could be accomplished. When Jest rejoined the group, the 12, fully dressed, walked to the bank of the stream and with the utmost composure stepped on the water, not into it. I never shall forget my feeling as I saw each of those 12 men step from solid ground upon the running water. I held my breath, expecting, of course, to see them plunge beneath and disappear. I found afterwards that that was the thought of all of our party. That's why they couldn't cross. At the time, I think each of us held his breath until they were all past midstream. So astonished were we to see those 12 men walking calmly across the surface of the stream without the least inconvenience and not sinking below the soles of their sandals. When they stepped from the water to the further bank, I felt that tons of weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I believe this was the feeling of every one of our party. Judging from the size of relief as the last man stepped ashore, it certainly was an experience that words fail to describe. The 7 belonging to our party returned for lunch. While the excitement was not so intense at the second crossing, every one of us breathed more freely when the 7 were safe ashore again. Not one of our party had left the bank of the stream that forenoon. There was very little discussion regarding what we had witnessed. So engrossed were we with our own thoughts. I bet. Walking on sunshine. Anyway, the second day, the company was toiling up the steep side of the mountain with the hot sun pouring down upon us when our chief, who had said but little during the last 2 days, suddenly remarked, "Boys, why is it that man is obliged to crawl and grovel over this earth. We answered in chorus that we had voiced our thoughts exactly. Went on to say, how is it if a few are able to do these things we have seen accomplish, that all men cannot accomplish the same things? How is it that man is content to crawl, and not only content to crawl, but is obliged to do so? If man was given dominion over all things, he was certainly given power to fly above the birds. If this is his dominion, why has he not asserted this dominion long ago? The fault must certainly be in man's own mind. This must all have come about by man's own mortal concept of himself. He has only been able, in his own mind, to see himself crawling. Thus, he has only been able to crawl. Then Jest took up the thought and said, you are perfectly right. It is all in man's consciousness. He is limited or unlimited, bound or free, just as he thinks. Do you think that the men you saw walk across the stream yesterday to save themselves the inconvenience of this trip are in any way special creations any more than you are? No. They are not created in any way different from you. They do not have one atom more power than you were created with. They have, by the right use of their thought forces, developed their God-given power. The things you have seen are accomplished in accord with definite law, and every human being can use the law if he will. Chapter 9. Located in this village was the healing temple. It is claimed that only words of life, love, and peace have been given expression in this temple since its erection. And the vibrations are so potent that nearly all who pass through the temple are instantly healed. It is also claimed the words of life, love, and peace have been used and sent out so long from this temple, and the vibrations emanating from them are so strong that should words in inharmony and imperfection be used at any time, they would have no power. We were told that this is an illustration of what takes place in man. If he would practice sending forth words of life, love, harmony, peace, and perfection, he would in short time not be able to utter an inharmonious word. We attempted to use inharmonious words and found in each instant that we could not even utter them. Wow. I'm sitting here, man, and just checking off the list. I mean, how many of us use words? We talk about this. Our guests talk about this. We use words that work against us, many times unconsciously. There are those who use certain, how shall we say, colorful language. And it always starts with the F word or, something else. And if you, and those who use it all the time in their speech and their vernacular, when you point it out to them, they will argue with you. I didn't say that. Well, yeah, you did. Well, what, and and there it goes again. That also happens with the way so many people perceive themselves. We've all had a certain amount of indoctrination, religious, non-religious. That's how our culture is. Our culture is all about indoctrination. You're indoctrinated into a class. You go through 12 years, each time. And think about it. Every bit of that attaches to ourselves. And so, yeah, it says this temple was the destination of those of the company who were seeking healing. It is the custom for the masters who are in the vicinity to congregate at this village at certain intervals for a season of devotion and instruction to those who wish to avail themselves of the opportunity. The temple is dedicated entirely to healing and is open to the public at all times. As it is not always possible for the people to reach the masters encourage the people to go to the temple for healing. This is the reason they do not heal those that congregate for the pilgrimages. They accompanied the pilgrims to show the people that they are no different than themselves, that all have the same God-given power within. I suspect that when they crossed the river that morning, they did it to show that they could rise above any emergency and that we should also rise above any emergency. Boy, is this prophetic? Wow, I'm telling you, man, the spirits are talking. In places not accessible to this temple, all who come to the masters for help are greatly benefited. Of course, there are the curious and those who do not believe that do not seem to receive any help. O ye of little faith. We witnessed a number of assemblages of from 200 to 2,000 people, and all those desiring healing were healed. A great many told us they were healed by declaring silently that they desired to be made whole. We had the opportunity to observe a large number of those healed at different times, and we found that about 90% of those healings were permanent, while all the healings in the temple seemed to be permanent. It was explained that the temple is a concrete thing located in one place representing the center of God, the Christ in the individual, just as all churches should templify this God or Christ center in the individual, and that it is always accessible to those desiring to go there. They could go to the temple as often as they choose and stay as long as they wished. The ideal is thus formed in the minds of those who come to it, and the ideal becomes fixed in the mind. Emil said, right here comes the suggestion that has led to the idolatry of the past. Men sought to grave in stone or wood, gold, silver, or brass, the image of that which they idealized. But any idol can only imperfectly picture the ideal. The image, the idol, is no sooner formed than man becomes conscious that the ideal surpasses the idol, and they are shown that they must gaze upon love and idealize for themselves that which they wish to bring forth from within. Instead of graving in an idol, in an outer form of the ideal, they would express. A later form of idolatry is to idolize the personality of the one who expresses the ideal. We should idealize the ideal which he expresses and not the personality which expresses it. This is true even of so great a person as Jesus. Thus, Jesus chose to go away when he saw the people were idolizing his personality instead of the ideal which he represented. They sought to make him a king, only realizing that he could supply them with every outer need, not recognizing that they within themselves had the power to supply every need, and that this they must do, as he himself had done. He said, "It is expedient that I go away, for if I do not go, the Comforter will not come," meaning that as long as they looked to him, to his personality, they would not recognize their own powers, for they must look within their very selves. Wow. Another may teach or tell you, but you of yourselves must do the work. For if you look to another, you build the idol instead of bringing forth the ideal. This is good writing. I mean, I love the ideal of what's being expressed here. I mean, if all of us could grasp this to its fullest extent, folks, this group right here, we could literally change the world. Literally. I mean, it may take us a while to get there, but we could begin to change that around us, those most closest to us, and then begin to change other things. This is powerful stuff. I find it just, well, it's relaxing, number one. Let's see how far we can get. Chapter 10. Emil talked to us on the realization of the Christ consciousness. He said, "It is through the power of your own mind or thought action that we are able to bring forth or realize the Christ consciousness. Through the power or process of thought, we can transmute and evolve our bodies or our outer conditions and surroundings through recognition of this Christ consciousness within ourselves, so that we will never experience death, nor any change called death." Wow. This is done wholly through man's power to visualize, idealize, conceive, and bring forth that which he gazes upon. This is done by first knowing or perceiving or having faith that the Christ is within ourselves, seeing the true meaning of Jesus's teaching, holding our body one with God, made in the image and likeness of God, and merging that body into the perfect God body, just as God sees us. We have idealized, conceived, and brought forth into manifestation the perfect God body. We are born again truly of and in the spirit kingdom of God. Wow, well, that's a mouthful right there. So he's saying that they know how to conquer death. The transmutation, folks, how many of you have been reading this at night? I have. I read it in the morning. It's it plants a seed. And it says that we have to understand we are the divine. We're the divine alchemist. Each of us are an alchemist. The fact that you live in this body validates that your consciousness can blend in with density of matter, and that you can animate with life force the density of that matter. You are an alchemist, a wizard, sorceress. I mean, this is the true magic. But particularly in the West, we're not taught this. That's powerful. Let's go on here. It is in this way that we can return all things to the universal mind substance, from which they sprang, and bring them back or return them perfect into outer form or manifestation. Then, by holding them in their pure, spiritual, perfect state, the vibrations are lowered and the things we wish to create come forth in perfect form. In this way, we can take every false belief, every old condition, every sin, all of our past life. It does not matter what it has been, how good or something or seemingly bad. It does not matter what mountain of false belief or doubt and unbelief or fear that we or anyone else have erected about us or in our past. And we can say to them all, I now return you to the great ocean of universal mind substance, from which all things come forth, and where all is perfection, and from which you spring, there to be again resolved into the elements from which you were created. I now return you or bring you back from that pure substance, as perfect and pure as God sees you, and hold you always in that absolute perfection. We can say to ourselves, I now realize in the old order of things that I brought you forth imperfectly, and you manifested imperfectly. Realizing the truth, I now bring you forth perfect as God sees you. You are reborn perfect, and it is so. We must realize that the inner alchemist, God within, has taken hold of this and has transmuted, refined, and perfected that which seemed imperfect, that which we brought forth and are now returning. We should realize that it is refined, perfected, and transmuted just as our own bodies are refined, perfected, and returned to us as God's body, joyously perfect, beautifully free. Finally, we should realize that this is the perfect Christ consciousness in all and for all. This is hid with Christ in God. Well, we'll pick this up again. Wow, I got to tell you what, just what we just finished reading. I mean, that can send every one of us free from any type of hindrance. This is powerful stuff if you really take faith into it. It tells me, and here's the thing. So how does karma exist with one who has obtained that level of consciousness? Because Emil, as a master, just showed us how we can transmute, dematerialize, send back every imperfect thing that we have created, and then bring it back into perfection. Wow. What was that? No karma. That was a story. Exactly. This is stuff that will make us, amongst the people you walk around, as this gets into us, and it's getting into us. By reading this out loud, my voice is given vibration to it. And I have confessed continually over my life, everything that I speak forth shall prosper in the thing for which I send it forth. So I don't want to send forth, let's say, to criticize someone. I don't want to bring forth, anything that leaves these lips, because I've already ordained it to be. But it's going to prosper no matter what I have sent it forth. Yeah, I got that out decades ago. Ah, good stuff, folks. This is an hour where we can just get away from the madness, folks. If it looks like they're going to quarantine the whole country, fine. I may do this twice a day. spirit goal, mass meditation. Yes, listen, I meditate every day, and I'm pretty good at this at 10 o'clock in the morning. Find out wherever you are in mountain time, then join me. And I tell you what I do now. Today, I just went in with this attitude. I give thanks for my consciousness. And from there, I begin to speak what I see as favor. Speak to the favor of virtually everything. And I speak favor to that ultimate consciousness. Call it whatever you want. I acknowledge that. And the journey always starts there. I think, Brandon, we can do this. Listen, it's a living thing. And if we concentrate, and I do believe that would be in the will of God, we can attack it. Literally, we can attack it and kill it with our minds. You can. You have to be in that state of consciousness, no doubt, but absolute knowing, and it will die. Cosmic conscious. I'm just trying to read all this. Well, all right. Cosmic Gypsy, that is great. Yeah, I've been there myself. It teaches you a lot. We got so many good people here that are just doing remarkable things. All right, BTW70, cool. I'll join you tomorrow. 10 o'clock my time. Let's and I'll tell you, let's get organized on this. So if we will start out acknowledging gratitude, all of us should do that. I mean, when you get into that attitude of gratitude, things begin to open. And then let's just speak favor to this virus. I mean, how can a virus persist if it's coming into resistance of doing exactly its opposite? Speaking favor to a virus to die. It can be done. Could you imagine if we would be responsible within 2 weeks, all cases in the United States ceased? And here we sit going, yeah. I believe our minds joined together in an hour of group meditation, it can send a powerful force in this planet. So I'll have to go back and read all the, it's just going by too quick. See, Trina is all about it. Yeah. Die virus with the power of love. Exactly. I mean, how could, if it's meant to our harm, then it ain't love, but our love will consume it. We'll cleanse it with our minds, bye-bye. Well, thank all you good people. This is, Trina and I will be on tomorrow, and we'll talk about this. We'll do some group meditation, Trina. How about this? At noon on our show. I mean, we've got 240 plus people in here. We sometimes higher numbers, but imagine if we had 240 participants all together, even for 5 minutes. Can you imagine that? All right, folks, peace, man, relax. It's all right. Be as wise as a fox, but as gentle as a dove. We're going to get through this. None of us are going to be leaving anytime soon. We got a job to do. And it takes all of us to do it. So, think good thoughts of everybody, those who love you, those who hate you, and remember to dance. Dancing days are here again. All right. Much love. See y'all tomorrow. Thank you, Trina. Thank you, all the moderators. Appreciate y'all. Viola, thank you, dear. Big Al, you be good, buddy. All right. Bye-bye.